Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second open mic. Thank you so much for being here. Um, just so everyone knows, we will be recording this open mic, and that's just because we want our attendees to be able to use the recording on their website and to promote themselves. Perfect. So we will be uploading this to YouTube. That's primarily for our attendees so that they can use the recording for future promotional things for themselves, just so you know. In addition, we also have closed captions available if anybody needs that. So if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there should be something that says show captions. You can press that to know that you can have captions available during the Zoom if you would like them. But before we get started, just a little bit about Abode. For those who haven't heard about us, we're a new intersectional anti-racist press in Central Texas. And this is our inaugural virtual retreat. So we're super excited to have our first retreat with such wonderful, talented writers and to showcase their work. It's so special to be able to work with such phenomenal people and to get to uplift them and the wonderful works that they're doing and have created through this retreat that they were doing before this, and to support them going into the future. So it means so much to us for you all to be here with us today to celebrate them. So this is an open mic, so this is like open mic rules. You're going to be hearing some poetry, you're going to be hearing some prose. So anytime you love something, there's a little reacting. We're already seeing hearts already. So if you're like, ooh, I love that, give us a little heart or do a little celebration thing. If you hear a line that you really like or something that you really enjoyed, feel free to use the chat and be like, snaps, or I love this, or, let's react, make this fun. And treat it as like a welcoming, encouraging space for all of the wonderful things that we're going to hear. So I'm Diamond Braxton. I'm the founder and director of Abode Press, and then SG Huerta is our senior poetry editor and managing editor. They're also here to answer any questions in the chat should you have any. But other than that, I think we just go ahead and get started and listen to a wonderful evening of prose and poetry. Let me pull up my little bios. So our first reader for the evening is Mateo Perez Lara. They Them Theirs is a queer, non-binary Latinx poet from Bakersfield, California. They received their MFA from Randolph College. Their work can be found in Hooligan Mag, The Essentials Review, Cotton Xenomorph, and elsewhere. Please join us in welcoming Mateo.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I first want to say I'm very grateful to Abode Press for doing this summer retreat. It definitely helped kickstart like a nice creative, outburst for the summer. Sometimes I know in the past, during summer, I kind of just don't write. I don't really do anything. And so this summer is like really enriched with creativity. So I'm very grateful for that. And also for the community. Workshops have been amazing. This whole month has been really nourishing, and I'm very grateful for that. I have just three poems today. One of them's really, really short, and then yeah. So the first poem is called Root Absence. Um, I've been working on my first manuscript, my first book, and the first part of the book is dealing with a lot of the grief of like family, loss of family, but also like divisions in family. This and particularly my grandpa, he was like one of the big, you know, like pillars of like love and greatness in my life. So this is kind of like a poem about him and kind of like what that, kind of what kind of what it feels like. So this is a poem from the first part of my book. So it's called Root Absence. I gather like trellis, ensnaring itself, ripened in promise and terror, than a comfort from a cyclical bruise, swollen, much like the plants my papa tended to until he could no longer tend to them, in which they withered like we wither, our color draining from our flesh in an absence. How blooming is so fragile in changing weather. I cannot breathe when I think of the garden that Papa grew. Then, when my grandma comes home from a long day of work, wants a cookie, but the doctor says she cannot have it. She feels like her heart is beating too fast. I fear another absence, a deserted garden in the backyard, among the lemon tree, amongst the grass, soft to the calloused foot, soft on a petrified body of years, a garden left to decay when everybody that tended to it is no longer here. What then would I do? Thank you. This next poem is I like horror movies. I'm a very big horror movie fan. I have a Camp Crystal Lake t-shirt on. So throughout Abode, it's really helped me edit and revise my poetry manuscript, but also, you know, inspired me to like write more. And so this poem is called Dream Chasing, and it's an ode to a horror movie. A focal point of my identity is making myself easy for simple men. I allocate my shame, forego most needs to become easy to please. My house divided up in sections when I harbor my pain, where it comes from, where it roams freely, where I fracture in between. I settle age-old curses until I wake up, go back to bed. My grandpa, here in my dreams, disappears. He is here again in the dreams, in the classroom, in the house, serving donuts, pouring coffee, then gone. I make myself easy, affixed to peace, that now no anger revels in my head. They like that, the men, those men that are not Papa, they cannot love and be quiet. They cannot generous. They cannot unconditional. They explain, they douse, they feel as if they must pay back, owe a debt. Maybe they do, but not my debt. Identity remains a focal point. When I am stuck in a room with little versions of myself who grew up too fast, too early, knew blasphemy before they could spell the word, before their whims were men's whims, vodka whims, touch me right here whims, fuck you whims, those essential reminders of a dying light. Then you wake up hot and sweaty in a room, reality lines muddled. Take this shard, rip it into the pillow. These lies are now your residual thoughts, formed into a man in a slicker with a fisherman's hook, chasing you up into the rafters, then across the greenhouse, in which you step so lightly it still crushes under your weight, and then you fall in on your back, impaled, yet somehow alive. But he is waiting, like all men, waiting, waiting, how they want to take their opportunistic slashes right into you. Just one more poem. It's called Totem Burden. I've been working a lot with form and space, and so I'm very, interested in like C.A. Conrad and Diana Coy Nguyen, just kind of the way they use space and form on the page. Layli Long Soldier, I was mentored by her for 2 years, so a lot of the way she uses form and space on the page, I took a lot of that. So this poem's called Totem Burden. Um, yeah, it's about being burdened, by things in your life. Never mind an illusion or potential between your teeth, chewing incessantly until mush. We crave disobedience, gargantuan in your lap, sweaty, throbbing. I think we enjoy stress a little too much. We build pillars of dissatisfaction, marvel at what pain we harbor, silly whims, silly you, one less piece of foundation. You're unsure, but you try your best to keep building until it topples. You do this because you've prepared. You already know its outcome. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. What a wonderful start to our reading, Mateo. Those poems were so great. And I also love horror. So like the Ode to the Horror poem was just so, so, so good. So yeah, I'm excited to go to Tim House with you later, actually. Yeah, it's been so fun. Thank you for starting us off. Okay. I'm so excited to introduce our next reader. Bianca Alyssa Perez was born and raised in Mission, Texas, a small southern town bordering Mexico. She holds her MFA in poetry from Texas State University, where she also teaches and coordinates the MFA in creative writing program. She was the 2022 to 2023 Clark House Writer in Residence in Smithville, Texas. Her chapbook, Gemini Gospel, is published with Host Publications. She is also the co-host of the horror podcast, Basement Girls. Find more chisme about Bianca at her website, biancaelizabeth.com.
Hi, thank you so much. Sorry, I had to go after, we had to have both the Perez's with, at the forefront of everything. Thank you, Mateo, for reading. I loved it. And thanks to the Abode. So I'm usually a poet, but I decided to moonlight as a fiction writer for a little bit to see what that would kind of bring out. And I'm really excited to see what that would bring out. So I'm gonna read some parts of a short story. It's called Yellow Ties. These people look like crows on telephone wires. They're all waiting for something to happen. They're all waiting for the wire to snap. Kat found herself wishing something would snap. All the crows in their best funeral outfits said their goodbyes to the unburied coffin. People shook hands, their lips tight. She imagined their lips only moving slightly to say, I'm sorry for your loss, or he's in a better place now, or he's just such an amazing person, we lost a good one. These people move with unhurried nervousness. It seemed like they didn't know what to do with their hands except to wring them in self-comfort at their bellies, or to look at anywhere but the coffin, almost completely lowered now. From her car, Kat watched as the heap of already wilting flowers slowly went out of view. 6 feet down. She could make out the large picture of him displayed next to a podium. It was framed in a gold gallery frame with fresh red roses at the corners. He hated roses, especially red ones. They reminded him of his father. His picture smiled widely at her and she felt nothing. Absolutely empty. She should be crying, she thought. Surely a tear would come any time now from the corner of her right eye. She willed it to, and nothing happened. Kat tried to remember the way his dark eyes used to sweep over her face, her eyes then focused on her lips. The triangle method, he called it. It's supposed to make you fall in love with me. She playfully slapped his shoulder. Too late, won't work, I already do. He laughed then, she remembered. Then she remembered how his left eyebrow always shot up whenever he laughed, and still nothing. This must be what they mean by shock. This is grief, she thinks simply, as if she was naming a type of fern or listing an ingredient in a Mexican dish. Ostrich fern, Boston, Jurassic, snakeskin fern, cilantro, tomatoes, lime, queso crema, grief, grief, grief. And I'm jumping ahead to a bar scene. Of course, losing someone you love is inevitable. The world is a crapshoot and a toilet, and people die every day. Kat read somewhere last week that at least one person dies every second. The clock on the bar shelf read 6:26. She did the math. 8 minutes had passed since the last time she checked. That's at least 480 people dead since she ordered her drink. She wondered what she was doing the exact second he died. She wondered if she felt it somehow, the escape of his soul, like a ringing in her ears or a small ache in her shoulder, some indication that something was lost. She hadn't told anybody about Anthony, hadn't even told Julieta, her best friend from grad school, that she had been seeing him. Julieta lived in California now, in her last year in a PhD program, so it would be easy to keep this from her, Kat thought. She opened her WhatsApp messages to Julieta and typed, going to be MIA for a few weeks, but we'll give you a call when things slow down, amiga. Kat had been single for the last 6 years. Julieta had tried to get her onto the dating apps. Dating apps made Kat feel sad about herself, and the men either stood her up, ghosted her, or just sent horrendous dick pics. She could only guess what Julieta would say if she told her everything about Anthony. He had been married for 5 years before he died, and before Kat met him. Kat imagined how that conversation with Julieta would go. Did Kat know he was married? Yes. Did she know he had cancer? Yes. Did she feel guilty? No. It didn't matter now, Kat thought. Anthony was dead. 2 months before his death, when he could no longer hide the pain or the sheer amount of weight he was losing, Anthony told his wife about his cancer diagnosis. Anthony sent Kat a WhatsApp message about it. I told her about the cancer. A few seconds later, the typing update going in and out, another message chimed. I told her about you. She wants to meet you, and I don't know how I feel about that, But considering I have nothing to lose, what do you think? Kat had found herself wondering about her too. What was her favorite movie? What did she focus on first when she looked in the mirror? How did she spend her free time when Anthony was on another trip for work? Was she lonely? Was she happy? What were her insecurities? She thought of her before going to bed sometimes. Her name was Lauren. Anthony called her Lori, and she was very pretty. Kat stalked her Facebook. Lori only had tag photos on public. She ran marathons, she baked cherry pies, and went to cooking classes. She liked going to winery trails and bee farms. She was pro-Palestine and pro-choice. She went to Madrid once in 2018. Kat imagined that her and Lori would be friends, close friends even. And then later in the story, she decides that she's going to go to the same grief counseling as the wife. So we'll see what happens next.
The chisme. Yes, thank you, Bianca. You know, there's a reason they say poets make some of the best prose writers, by the way. So, and I'm a fiction writer, so fiction writers would come speak to us and tell us that, and I'm like, you're not wrong. So thank you for starting us off. That was wonderful. I'm super excited to introduce our next reader, someone else from my cohort, Emily Hoang, is from San Francisco and attained her MFA from University of San Francisco. You can find her work in Gasher Journal, Ice Cream Magazine, Font Publishing, among others. She's currently working on a novel and a short story collection. Find out more on her website, emilyhuang.com.
Hey everybody, thank you so much, Abode Press. I feel so honored to be in the inaugural cohort with such amazing writers. I'm going to be reading 3 flash fiction pieces. The first one is called Salt, My Mother, and it was published on the Barham House. The girl devoured salt like rice by the cluster, and it was even sweeter when her mother wasn't looking. Facing the stove, her mother fried tofu while the girl, crouched under the table, hugged a Morton container, her first secret lover. Instead of her usual pinch, a waterfall cascaded into her mouth, onto the floor, creating a mountain. Her mother reprimanded her and cleaned up her mess, a dance they would return to for years to come. But this didn't stop the girl from future attempts, licking the Himalayan salt lamp in her aunt's bedroom, gathering the dandruff in her hair that deceptively looked like coarse salt, sifting salt from the snowy roads. Each encounter met with a lecture, but made the girl more unstoppable. Even when she accidentally found her mother crying the one and only time. By impulse, she traced her mother's face with her tongue, starting from her right jawline, then up to her cheeks until she reached the source, where the skin parted and deepened into a hole that housed her eye. The girl, blinded by the taste of salt, drank and reaped its goodness, sucking her mother dry until she was no longer a girl, but a mother herself. And then the second piece is called Ode to the Dirty Dog, and it was published in Ice Queen magazine. We start at Jackalope, where we drop balls down a pegboard for a reading of what shots we're getting. Plain names that fail to encompass the burn we are about to ingest. Hand in hand, we skip over to Soda Popinski's and play our luck at the Wheel of Spirits, each spin rewarding us with a drink that would get us closer and closer to an alternate personality possessing our bodies, characters that are more daring. We float on waterbeds in cozy car while hearing loud moans in the background porn and make a drinking game where we sip every time we see a woman faking an orgasm. After all the fun and games, we go to Playland, becoming playthings for the sausage-infested dance floor. A light swipe across the ass, a pinch around the hips, soft touches under the guise of permission. But we say yes if there are more drinks. So we follow them back and forth from the dance floor and bar, each track getting blurrier, like flight. But then the lights come on and we're forced to reckon with the reality of their faces and our hunger. We mutter goodbyes and rush out the exit and into the welcoming smells from carts lined up along the streets. We approach a lady grilling buns. Yes to onions. Yes to ketchup and mustard. We deep throat the dirty dogs without gagging, nodding yes to more. And then this last piece, I wrote it during Diamond's workshop, so it's still a draft, and it's untitled. The city's rat hole was getting bigger and bigger. It started as a crack in the grass fields in front of City Hall. Small insects and worms started to crawl out, But then Fred again and Skrillex had a surprise rave. People climbed trees, and a mosh pit was moshing so hard the hole expanded large enough to engulf someone in the audience. No one noticed at first, but as the rave progressed, the hole got bigger, and now groups were disappearing with each bass drop. When Fred again stood on the DJ booth and saw, he immediately stopped the rave to tell everyone to step back. Once people were at least a block away, the artist continued to play. People still stayed to enjoy the music, and luckily, the hole didn't expand until the rave was over and people gone. The artists, however, were intrigued by the hole, especially when they started hearing music coming out of it. Fred again played something on the keyboard while Skrillex sampled some R&B song. It was said the hole paused its growth to respond to their tune. No one knows for sure if shortly after the artists were swallowed by it, or if they jumped in, hoping to meet whoever was on the other side. Thank you.
Oh, that was cool. Thank you so much, Emily. That was awesome. It's so cool to hear your flash. Wow. Mosh pit disappearances. That's so brilliant. Okay, I'm excited. All right. I'm excited to introduce this next person. Isaac Salazar is an Austin-born and Houston-based poet. His work is published or forthcoming in Agni, Dead End Zine, Honey Literary, The Essentials Review, and Ware Meadows, among others. He is a graduate student at Rice University.
Can you hear me? Good. Okay. Thank you, Diamond, and thank you, SG, and the amazing space that is Abode Press. Truly, I'm so glad to be a part of it. I also want to say thank you to my cohort. Their care has shaped me so much this past June, so thank y'all. So yeah, I'm going to read 2 short poems, maybe 3 if I have enough time. I want to preface by saying that all of the poems, or at least the first 2, are very different from one another. Especially the first one, it's a little weird, but bear with me. They're very short though. This first poem is after Eduardo C. Corral, and it's titled Questions for My Body, Post-Bowel Movement. Was there grief? Was there abundance? Is there red in the yolk? Why aren't you a ghost? When is the next apocalyptic flood? How do your hands protest? Can you taste the soap suds? Who tossed you flower-wreathed sun? Have you ever met mercy? Will you open for me? What about your sky stays? That's the first one. And the second one, also pretty short. It's titled Amyl Nitrates, or as I like to call it more informally, the Pauper Sonnet. If you know, you know. And this is after Amani Davis. Like an obsidian blade, subtlety. In a place of yes, your lips rule, iron fisting against my choked nose. Christina Aguilera in the club, and we unleash inhibition. New moon's whole ball gagged, eyes beaded beneath the violet light's summer body. Your vice grip is still nameless in my throat. Tongue drowned in saliva's deluge, I always want to understand your linger, that bloated sugar sweet vined in the orchid of my nostrils. There, 2 hooded monks, then nothingness. Amsterdam of my day, there are many colors. I walk on a cobblestone street, and now it occurs, the miserable crawl of my breath. Unimprovised, this pirouetted dizzy. Finally, my head holds a god. Be done. There's nothing more to say. That's the second one. I think I have time for a third. This one's also pretty short, also very different. It's about a roly-poly or a pill bug if you collected those when you were little. So I thought I would give some gratitude for that little creature. Yeah, so it's titled Roly Poly. In the muggy creek, your oval body curves like an onyx bead. Animal-like, heat is in heat, and there's nothing to live in fear of, but rather to long for. Legs, muscled oarsmen paddling the sky, legs, tendrils of light, weight. The blue-gray crepuscule confessed. How do you say no to your shell's timid waning? Moon-bellied, you crawl over velvet twigs, buffalo grass, broken beer glass. The rocks governed by their own chatty flesh. Look, binoculars of your eyes, a gentle erosion, the mountain opening its egret beak. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so nice to hear all the poets because I don't really get to see y'all. So it's so great to hear y'all. And I love how Gay was getting in the chat for a second. So I do feel like it's important to be like, thank you for ending Pride Month here with us and listening to wonderful poetry and prose. So yeah, it just feels perfect. Okay, I'm so excited. Let's keep going. So our next reader is Liz Márquez. Liz Márquez is an Ecuadorian-American bilingual educator and writer based in Houston, Texas. She is a 2023 Bona Fellow and recipient of the 2021 Lara Poetry Prize, whose work has appeared in the Acentos Review, Salazar magazine, Latina Literatures, and more. This fall, Liz will be joining the 2024 Roots Rooms Words Writers Retreat as a Poetry Fellow. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you, Diamond. Thank you, SG. Thank you guys, my cohort. It's just been such a lovely month. Getting to know everybody and just being in awe of your greatness. So I have a few poems. This first one is a poem that I wrote after Megan Malachi. I attended a workshop with Ariana Brown about names, and so this came out of that. So this one's called Melissa. Melissa hates summers in Houston. Says she sweats in places she didn't know moisture could gather. Melissa loves to dance salsa and bachata on Latin Thursdays. Praise the dude she's dancing with can't feel the sweat patch above her ass. Melissa has a great ass, and I'm still bitter about it. What Melissa still struggles in believing is how her ass is the least interesting thing about her. Melissa is gorgeous, a late blooming, ugly duckling kind of beauty, the kind she still doesn't trust. After Melissa's heart got broken more than a few times, she doesn't trust anyone, sometimes not even herself. Melissa's anxiety often threatens to steal her joy, but I remind her like it's my job. Like when Jane asks Xiomara to help her stuff her boob like a hamburger into baby Mateo's mouth, and Xiomara says, "Honey, I am all over it." Like the time Melissa and I got high and mommy didn't know, and she called us bobas when we laughed for 10 minutes straight. Melissa has always known a better version of mommy and papi than me. It took Melissa time to find her voice, firm and unwavering. It is my favorite sound, the unfolding louder and louder. Melissa gets things wrong a lot, and she teaches me how to hold my tongue. Melissa straightens, then curls her already curly hair, and I don't get how that makes any sense, other than we grew up around way too many white girls. When Melissa drives, I pray hard. Like the time we drove to the club in blinding rain, our phones going off with flood warnings, but I stayed quiet because Melissa had just broken up with the love of her life at the time, and she needed this. And what the hell else are sisters for? I miss Melissa all the time, but Melissa always comes home for the summer, even though she hates summers in Houston. Okay, this next one is called lentejas. Lentejas are lentils in Spanish, so there's a little bit of Spanish in here, but I hope I don't lose anybody. All right. Las lentejas rinden. Mommy says, which is to say it fills the hungry bellies of a family of 4 or 4,000, well versed in the difference between need and want, because you're never able to wander about the latter. She, a culinary master, learned in the art of making miracles out of morsels. She, healer woman, shreds the plátano, giving it a thicker consistency, sticks to the intestines, slowing down digestion. How different is the taste of food cooked by hands that for too long only knew emptiness and urgency and dull absence. I've never known the dull ache of hunger in the pit of my stomach, but these hands have been trained to steady the blade. How we too cut these pieces of us and fool the taste buds when we season the bland. Mouth-watering, I long to see us live beyond need, leisurely, and to know the fullness of 2 fish, 7 pieces of fry bread, and a bowl of lentejas. All right, and this last one, I actually got to workshop it a bit with my cohort. I'm a little happier with it now. I may still be working on it, but this is what I have so far. So the title of it, I've changed it, is This Morning, Papi and I Talk About Palestine. This morning, Papi and I talk about Palestine. How last night, our neighborhood kids ran free, fireworks grasped between fingers. How every blast made me think of children in Gaza, coward and unsmiling. I don't tell him how every time my son covered his ears, drowning out the noise and fear, a flash of him blued, eyes blinking to keep blood out, appeared before me. And I could not unsee, and I could not breathe. How can Palestinians breathe? I asked of the silence between us, with white phosphorus residue, 15 years thick. This morning, Papi speaks of the 2000 Camp David summit and how Americans say it failed. Says Americans blamed Arafat, arguing that he was unwilling to make peace. On most mornings, Papi would consider himself American. This morning, I hear the way his sentences push away at the word, one harsh syllable at a time. On most mornings, Papi knows what it's like to have colonizers offer you scraps and demand that you be grateful for crumbs. This morning, he is hungry, longs for the fullness never found behind these borders. On most mornings, Papi awakes with the ache of a home too far away. This morning, it growls in my belly too. He gently closes the newspaper, only to find a picture of Ted Cruz on the back. The disgust and anger that emerges from his throat finds its echo in my own. And there isn't much I would trade these moments for, these mornings when Papi and I talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was so beautiful. Thanks for bearing witness to that. Wow, very moved. Yeah, I'm gonna be introducing our next wonderful reader. Up next, we have Saint J. Kinnebrew. Saint J. Kinnebrew is a Chicanx dyke, writer, educator, and artist born and based in Texas. They're currently an MFA fiction candidate at Texas State University, where they are working on their first collection of creative nonfiction essays, explorations, and exclamations, as well as a multitude of other forthcoming works that I cannot wait to read. So let's give a warm welcome to Saint.
Hi, friends. So as previously mentioned, I am currently working on my first collection of nonfiction works, maybe hybrid, maybe some poetry. I don't know. We're figuring it out as it goes. But my collection is exploring a lot about like relationships to identity and whatnot. So I'm going to be reading a portion of a piece to y'all today. Not all of it because it's way too long, but just the beginning, from an essay about being gay, being trans, being gay and being trans. So happy Pride. Remember, the first Pride was a riot, and we would be nowhere without trans women of color. So remember that next time. Remember that next time. Anyways, this piece is called "Does the Werewolf Shed Its Fur in Summer?" I resisted birth, resisted being born into this world, into this body, upside down, and refusing to turn, the doctor told my mama. When I would not budge, they forced me out, served my eviction notice in the form of cesarean section, and I came out screaming, fighting, angry. How could you do this to me? At least I like to think I came out screaming, already angry, already fighting my battle cry. But my mama doesn't remember. She was too high on the drugs they gave her to make my birth bearable to remember. I ask, and she tells me the only thing she remembers is holding me and being afraid. I was born with a full head of hair and covered in fur. Little fuzzy peach, little hairy creature, you looked like a werewolf, she tells me. I was concerned. 23 years later, and she still has the C-section scar, exit wound, a milky ghost across her lower stomach, proof of life. Memories of childhood are incomplete without the detail of my hair, what it looked like, how it was cut, the way people treated it, sacred thing not to be messed with. At its longest, the ends reached my lower back, pin straight, blunt bangs, too much hair for someone so little to handle. It stayed that length for the first decade of my life. Long hair and I did not agree with one another. We fought. Often, I preferred to tie it back. It preferred to remain free. I refused to comb it, and in retaliation, it tied itself into knots atop my head. I would avoid my nightly bath out of hatred for my care routine. Hair that long and that thick was a nuisance. I would moan and groan and beg my mother to let me fall asleep with day-old hair. She never did. Instead, she would wash my hair for me, sit tubside and use an old plastic cup from the pizza place down the street to pour water over my scalp. It was the only time I liked my hair, when the hot water was just warm enough, when my mama's nails scratched little circles into my scalp, when my mama told me, "Your hair is beautiful, so beautiful. You should be proud." In my memories, the girls that looked like me all had a similar silhouette. Round face, round stomach, brown skin, and long hair to hide it all. I remember returning to school after summer break one year and discovering one of the white girls had dyed her hair red with Kool-Aid and cut it short. I wanted to dye my hair red with Kool-Aid and cut it short. Like a boy. I told my mama just that, omitted the boy part. Even then, I knew that I would be admitting something I wasn't ready to. It felt like I had offended her in some way. "No," she said, "you can never cut your hair that short. Your face is too round and it won't look good on you. Keep your hair long. It's the most beautiful thing about you." I think of girls who looked like me sometimes, and I wonder if their mothers told them the same thing. Sacred thing, not to be messed with. I began to synonymize pale skin with freedom. The first time a hairdresser took thinning shears to my hair, she did it without permission. I did not know how to tell her to stop when she begun. The words caught in my chest. I could not say no. It was my first time getting a trendy haircut. I was 12, and those things mattered. I had begged my mama to let me cut it short. An asymmetrical bob was the closest I could get to what I wanted. The hairdresser ran her hands through my hair, felt the length and the thickness. Couldn't believe someone so young had so much hair. "Your hair is so thick. We'll fix you right up," she told me. But fix meant fuck. "We'll fuck you right up," is what she meant to say. took the length, then took some more, said, let's get some of that weight off your shoulders. I watched clumps of my hair fall out and onto the white tile beneath the chair as she sheared it off. I did not know how to tell her to stop. When it was over, she asked, what do you think? And I told her I love it because Mama always taught me to be polite. And she was sitting by the chair, at the chair by the mirror, watching, waiting. I begged my mother for that haircut, begged her to be okay with change. I couldn't show her I was upset. She never let me cut my hair that short again. My hair was lighter, but my heart carried the extra weight. And that night I cried in the shower, running my hands through my lack of hair. Sacred thing, ruined. I would learn years later that when white ladies told me your hair is so thick, it wasn't really a compliment. When my aunt was diagnosed with breast cancer, one of the first things I remember hearing is, will she lose her hair? My aunt did not want to lose her hair, would not lose her hair, didn't know what she'd tell her kids, tell the world. She decided to participate in a clinical trial for a medical device that was supposed to protect your hair from the aggressive chemotherapy. It was a tight-fitting cap that she would wear before, during, and after treatment. The gel that lined the cap would cool the scalp, causing the blood vessels to narrow, preventing too much of the chemotherapy medicine from traveling to the scalp. Keep the hair follicles healthy, keep the hair from falling out. All of the women in my family have the same hair, dark, coarse, cowlick in the front, cowlick in the back, pinned straight, curls after 50. My aunt's was the thickest and the coarsest, and she hated her hair, but she did not want to lose it. The first time I saw her after she had finished chemotherapy, her hair had thinned so much, I almost didn't recognize her. Thank you. And thank you, Abode, for hosting this retreat. This has been a lovely experience. So thank you all very much.
Wow, amazing. And everyone who's read, I hope you're looking in the chat at all the love you're getting. Saint, that was incredible. Your voice, wow, amazing. We are at the halfway point. I'm so excited for the next 5 readers we have. Next up we have Sebastian Ellios. Sebastian, he, him, is a Black queer poet in Durham, North Carolina, writing about what it means to partake in human ecosystems. A 2024 Vona Fellow. He's been published by Tabadul Collective, Beyond Words, Moonstone Press, Voicemail Poems, Fruit Slice, and Carolina Muse. He's probably listening to Tierra Whack or Waxahachie right now. Let's welcome Sebastian.
Thanks, SG. I'm actually listening to Tim's right now, which like can be added as like a permanent fixture on that list. So yeah, I just want to start by saying thank you to Abode Press as well. I think this past month has been fantastic, and I'm so appreciative of SG and Diamond putting this together, and my cohort for being just as fantastic and intentional and collaborative as we've been. It's been a really special experience. So I'm going to read 2 pieces. I'm like wavering on a third, but we'll see if there's time. Yeah, the first one I do want to like give a trigger warning for, involves an instance of domestic abuse as well as acts of genocide. So if you are not feeling resourced for that tonight, please by all means take care of yourself. If you're sitting with somebody, you need to like cover their ears and let them know when it's over. If you need to mute me for a few minutes, that's totally fine. Please do so. And I will kind of raise my hand like this as a visual cue just when I'm done with that piece. And I also want to thank my cohorts. This is one that I workshopped with them and have been like sitting with for the past few weeks since then. And all of their feedback got me to a place realizing it wasn't done. There was more that I wanted to say in this. So I'm excited for everybody here, specifically, honestly, my cohort. So this one is called They Told Me God Had a Plan. I lost God on the back of knuckles. Saw God in the space between my face and a fist. God was gone in a flinch, a shattered tooth in his place. What followed was confirmation. Faith is folly, and soldiers are of violence, nothing more. The toughest battles are doled out by chance. Point me to the passage that proves otherwise. Adam is still falling. Better to spit out blood than a prayer. At least you keep your breath within cracked ribs until the next involuntary exhale at the end of a blow. Still, they tell me everything happens for a reason. I lost God on videos of children recognizing dead parents on hospital beds, saw God in the space between a bomb landing and the sound of detonation. God was gone in a boom, a rushing wave of rubble in his place. What followed was silence. Then screams. Then body parts in bags. What followed were family names forgotten, and the scuffling of a 90-year-old woman evacuating down a long road south. Eve is still devouring. Better to swallow seeds and save your spit. Keep your mouth from drying out as the dust of buildings you once entered settles upon you. Still, they tell me, everything happens for a reason. Still, they tell me, God has a plan. I ask them what it is. I ask them to explain the reason, ask them to show me the plan, ask them for restoration, for resurrection, ask them till I am raw in the throat, the breath I kept spent, the spit I saved gone, the seeds I swallowed shriveled and dead in my stomach, waiting for light that's not coming. I ask them again and again and again and again until I am asking their retreating backs. They told me God had a plan. They didn't tell me God lost it. Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna take a breath. The second one I want to read is, I think, just a bit of like a, I don't know, pulling the curtain back and just like how I've ended up who I am. So yeah, just an ode to upbringing. So this one is called Lessons on How to Be. My mother taught me to never bow my head, no matter the status of the person in front of me. She taught me the difference between sorry and an apology, explained that one is a word and the other requires empathy and authenticity. My mother taught me to state my needs and how to respectfully send things back at restaurants. People have always praised my posture. I was never taught how to shrink. Look where you're going. Remember that I love you. Whoever they are, you are enough. Meet their gaze. You can be scared, not silent. And I think I'll end it there for tonight. So thank you, y'all. I appreciate it.
Wow, thank you for reading such important words. That was so wonderful to hear and necessary and important. Also, it wouldn't be Zoom without me losing connection. It wouldn't be a virtual retreat without a little bit of connection issues, but I'm glad to be back and to hear such incredible work from Sebastian. Wow. Okay, I'm going to introduce our next reader, Toni Garcia-Butler. He, they, is a Black Sealand poet, community artist, and a DIY boy of many names. He believes poets play a multifaceted role. We are not solely creators, but also keepers of culture and history as it happens. They call Little Rock, Arkansas, home.
Hi, thank you for the introduction, Diamond. Thank you, and thank SG for facilitating such an amazing experience. I'm really proud to read something new that I wrote during the retreat, as well as some pieces that I workshopped with my cohort, and a piece that will be in publication soon. So also excited to announce that. My first poem I'll be reading is Toni Wade, after Megan Malachi. Toni has been through heartbreak. They've been through betrayal. Toni has been through baptisms upon baptisms of born-again selves. Waters wash away what was carried by the name before, weight that made him sink into the depths of a someone who didn't fit anymore. Ooh, Toni. They laid his self to rest on the mountain, a moment divine, 9 years in the making, crying tears to anoint the face of his own creation, who gazed upon the gods, who saw his glow overcome. Toni wade through the storm, empowered by rage, blessed by the skies. He feels good. Yes, it feels good to leave it all behind him. Goodbye, eldest daughter. Goodbye, confused kid. Goodbye, cowering lover. Toni is shedding skins. Let them fall down the flow of the river who carried you first. Thank you. All right, the next poem I am reading is There's Something About Pride in the South. Content warning for one instance of an F slur. But let's go. We are out, grown and tired of a town who used to come alive with color. Pink houses, flagged havens, lost in centuries censored purple, great again red. And God hates fags, at least that's what they said. And that might be true since every June we march through humid hell of summer's afternoon. Pleather heels stick to skin, prismatic clothes, paint, and pins, a target to some, but here, a sign of safety, a human oasis in a place that wants you dead, in body, spirit, name, a place your siblings fled for brisk cities, queer political climate, country refugees, transplants rooted in magnolia trees. Hey neighbor, is grass truly greener on the other side or wherever you choose to water it? Bullets sweat down our necks, fall like muscadines on pounded pavement. We're grateful they aren't real. Thank you. All right. This poem is called Agenda on the Eve of Revolution. Wake up, check on your people, call your mother, thank our mother, then care for another. Ask, have you ate? What you need? I got you. Make your favorite food and fill your people with love, with warmth, with spirit. Set the table, spill the tea, sow the seeds of liberation from our sorrows, from our collective suffering, from the river Mississippi to the Mediterranean Sea. We mourn together. Sing their names as daily grace. Bless us, O Lord, for these are bonds which we build to get free. Today we cry, tonight we rest, tomorrow we rise. Thank you. And the last poem I will share with y'all tonight is titled This Poem is a Performance. And I was super stoked to hear it is going to be in the upcoming issue of New Words Press. So super stoked. This is after Arkansas SB 43, which for those who are out of Arkansas state was one of those very thinly veiled anti-trans drag queen bills. Oh, right on. Okay, guys. This poem is a performance. Tonight at karaoke, I sing like every song's my last, because as far as I'm concerned, it is. The bill will pass before I belt my next tune, before we bust our next move, before the wounds of the week have a chance to heal. If you're trying to take us back in the day, you'll have to drag us, kicking and screaming against the closet you tried to force on us. But if we learned anything from elders haloed in red, it's how to survive in suffocating circumstances, strap up and try to live. When darkness falls, we'll meet again, bathed in the moonlight, singing this time at a hole in the wall, shared only between kindred spirits, comrades, queens. We shake it on our makeshift shot house stage, out in the middle of somewhere, Southern fried and mighty queer. Raise your voice a little louder so everyone can hear. I don't need your permission to be. Thank you. That's all I have to share tonight. Thank y'all again for listening.
Oh my God, those are so good. Like every moment I was like, yes, thank you. It's just like, as a queer person in the South, I feel like that was so good. Thank you for sharing that. I was having a body experience. Okay. I'm really excited to introduce someone from my cohort. Marilyn Ramirez is a fiction writer from Southern California. She is the winner of the Epiphanary Literary Journal 2024 Breakout Writers Prize. Snaps for that. Her stories have appeared in Salente, The Plentitude, Press Pause Press, and elsewhere. An MFA candidate at UC Davis, Marilyn is currently working on a collection of short stories.
Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to be reading a work in progress called Cenotes, and it's about a few things. Obviously, cenote is one of them, but also a husband and wife, Mother Mexico, motherhood, being a daughter, all kinds of things. So here it goes. I see my daughter in bus windows. Sometimes her head leans against the glass and she thinks about her day at a school that enforces green and blue plaid uniforms. Other times, I see her arguing with a friend in front of an elotero, claiming that esquites are for boring people who can't handle biting corn off the cob. In a mercado, I see her walking with a group of people, one of whom is pushing a stroller draped with black merchandise bags, and she sticks her hands in before pulling out a churro hardened by the day. The sugar and cinnamon sticks to her nose, her teeth. She's a bad listener because her home is very loud. When she sits in her space, she crosses her arms in front of her chest to deflect the vibrations of screams from another room. Still, in some ways, she is the best listener for when the world is about to fall apart. She dreams. She dreams many dreams that I have known daughters to have before. Streets purple with jacaranda trees enveloping cars parked underneath them, tiny footprints dotting dirt roads after a game of soccer, hammocks swaying bodies when they fall from the sky, pit bulls trotting through a forest with her on their backs, the grass of me growing from the dorsum of her hands, whispering sweetly, "You are a daughter of Madre Naturaleza." She dreams she is blind. The backs of her lids are not a sign that she must wake for the day, but that she is screened from seeing what she could become. When your ears ring, it doesn't mean someone is talking about you. It means you're not listening. In March, a husband and wife from San Diego began their 10-day Mexico trip at El Bosque de Chapultepec. They held hands walking up the cracked concrete to its castle, a landmark defended by the Niños Héroes in the Mexican-American War. 6 cadets under the age of 19 all died. The husband and wife took pictures of the statues, sending the photos to his mother. "Mira, ma," the husband texted. "Eran solo niños." The husband's mother has always told the wife what kind of child he was, all the ways he never needed her, all the ways people saw the potential in a boy who rarely saw his parents who worked in California fields but only complained when people lied, all the ways he had a strong, albeit mildly tedious, aversion to people who lacked integrity. You all have lapses. He hated the concept of lies because all lies are rooted in either laziness or truth, even if it's a truth you're not ready to hear. He learns as much about everything. In Mexico City, the floor of their hotel room sloped so badly that the wife set a water bottle on its side and it rolled from the end of the room to the doorway. She laid on the floor then, trying to see if the blood would rush to her head. It didn't. She felt the heat of water pipes beneath the backs of her arms and legs. "It's not that bad," she said. "The room was only $40 a night." "That's not the point," he said. "Earthquakes, that's the point." The hotel was in the neighborhood of Roma Norte. On September 19th, 1985, an earthquake with an 8.0 magnitude struck the area, killing 5,000 people. 2 more earthquakes struck on September 19th, 2017 and September 19th, 2022. This is true. The neighborhood had been destroyed and rebuilt, destroyed and rebuilt. The husband found parts of the walls with shoddy putty jobs that seemed to connect their room to the next. They essentially glued the walls together. The last cadet, the last boy to die, was Juan Escutia, who leapt from the Chapultepec castle wrapped in the Mexican flag. The wife thought about what it meant to wrap himself in a promise of a future that would have nothing to do with him, but mean everything to those he left behind. "My daughter's name is Xochitl. Yes, because it's Nahuatl, but more so because her nickname is Zoe. I am a mother of puns. You look so cute with that hair. You're going to be so late for practice. Te amo, Zoe. She points out the last one isn't quite a pun, but it's an excuse for me to tell her all the ways she never needed to earn my love. She is given a name that a person or a chart determined that would lead to too many questions. How do you grab an X and shape it on your slippery tongue? How do you read an X without feeling the need to solve for it? You just do. Still, I am a mother of meanings. She learns she is a flower. She learns we are a blend of two countries holding on to us for different reasons. But she also learns the X, over time and space, has become a voiceless alveolar fricative. When she says her name, the tip of her tongue gently touches her alveolar ridge before she exhales. I place her hand on her neck to feel for vibrations. See, I say, no sound. Thank you for listening.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much, Marilyn. It was so great to hear you read that. Wow, so many great lines. Mother of puns. I just really loved that. Okay, I'm excited to keep going. We have 2 more readers, so thank you all for bringing such stellar work. It's been such a lovely to hear everybody get to read from the retreat, and yeah, just such a wonderful way to kind of close out everything. Our next reader is Jordan Alejandro Rivera. He, him, is a 23-year-old queer Chicano writer living in Boston. Jordan is passionate about mutual aid and currently works as a medical researcher. His work is featured in Fifth Wheel Press, Writers Resist, HAD, and others. Read more at jordanrivera.wordpress.com or on Twitter at JordinoWrites.
How's it going, everyone? I have the sun like directly in my face right now, so it's kind of like the environment kind of cueing me on to poetry. So let's, I have 3 for you tonight. So the first one I'm going to start off with is actually an ekphrastic. So I'm going to send that in the chat. It will ask you for your credit card number, so just put that in. No, I'm kidding. So that you can take a look at the poem while it's going, but I'm just going to read it straight off of that. It's a really weird picture. It's kind of surrealist, but it's by a Mexican artist named Remedios Varo, and it's entitled Vampiros Vegetarianos, which translates to vegetarian vampires, even though, you know, kind of sounds similar to the English. All right. So, a momentary respite from exchanging chismes, they all sip from the ripe flesh at the sharp tip of their straw. They imbibe the sanguine nectar, keeping supple and warmed under the clouded moon's evening dew. Spilling in from above, still, no chill bites their bones, the tomatoes will do, as none in this coven even ponder the plasma pulsing through the pets at their feet. So that was the first one. And yeah, that one, it basically, I was just trying to write more ekphrastic poems, but it's one that really like, it's just a very evocative photograph, and I love the idea of like chicken dogs. And I was watching a movie last night. I don't know if anyone's seen like Poor Things, but they actually had something that looked like that. So it's really kind of freaky looking at it now. But yeah, so that one is my first one. And then this next one was published with HAD, and it's entitled There Are Microplastics in the Fish. So I'm just going to go right into that one. We have forsaken every domain, from the highest reaches of the floating cloud fortresses to the deepest abyssal trenches where no light dare penetrate. We trash the fuck out of the place. If I were to go for a leisurely swim off the coast of Massachusetts, not only would I lose all of my limbs in a long drawn-out fight against 11 warring nations of flesh-lacerate amoeboids, I would grow a pseudo-uterus and spawn the world's first human-born factory. I can't love the child. I barely have any money after all the limb removal surgeries, and he looks just like the Industrial Revolution, his deadbeat father. I mourn when the worst thing in my salmon was its own poop and mercury. Right, so that was the second to last one. So this one, this last one, I know we have a lot of Latinx people in the Abode retreat in general, but you know, in this open mic as well. So I wanted to save this one for last. I wrote this one. I was talking to someone who is Puerto Rican, and we were talking about just like curse words, and they were saying that Mexicans have some of the best curse words just because of the versatility of chingar, which, you know, means different things in different places, but I kind of took that and rolled with it for this poem. So this one's called Chinga Diccionario. Vete a la chingada. Go to hell. Chingar is the soft tendon between the tongue and the duende. No me chingues. You're kidding me, right? Chingar is not the F word. It's the foreword to a horror movie that says inspired by real events. Una chingadera, worthless piece of junk. Chingar is the ballistic gelatin, full of bullets, yet mouth-watering. Soy chingon, I'm a badass. Chingar is the placid emptiness after finishing and wiping the ink away. Y eso es todo. We're done. I hope you
Oh my
enjoyed.
God.
Thanks everyone for listening. And thanks for the retreat. And overall, it was amazing.
I love that you ended on that one. That was so awesome. Thank you so much for reading that. Those were all so wonderful. And I love this idea of like a vegetarian vampire. Just such wonderful pieces that you brought. Okay, I'm so excited. Okay, so I'm going to be introducing the last reader for the night. I feel like it's just flying by. Zaira Gomez is an emerging writer from Pennsylvania located in Mexico City. As a queer Mexican femme, her works explore themes of adolescence, femininity, sexuality, and post-trauma healing. Her work is published or forthcoming in the Sonora Review, Querencia Press, and Entre magazine. She is working on her first chapbook entitled Sentidos de mí mismo.
Okay. Hi, can everyone hear me? Okay. My internet has been very, I don't know, but so I hope that it can sustain what I'm gonna try to say. But first off, everyone is just so incredible, so talented. I was crying, I was laughing. This experience has been so incredible. And so I was thinking about like what to read. This is like low-key my first open mic, so I'm a little nervous. But I was thinking, I was like, it's Pride, it's like the last month, like I have to put a little something in there. So this is a really short poem, but it's based off one of my favorite movies. And yeah, so it's very short, but Mosquita y Mari, head out, highway high, a continuous zephyr, el día previo synced, admiration for the asterisms, pastel colored moon glowing, measured burning glances, pinkies linked, head cradled. And so the second one is called You're on Display and Admission is Free. Just as a trigger warning, this does kind of talk about kind of street harassment and stuff like that. So just a warning. You're on display, silent gawking, open wide, unfed mouths, waiting for a taste of your salty skin, a tiny lick, or to sink their teeth into your exposed thighs. And admission is free. Their voices are probably lost in high altitude and congested air. Bobbleheads bobble 24/7 even at dawn. I wait for their heads to snap, but they never do. You're on display. Eyes like lasers penetrate through metal doors, Metrobus swipes, they wander above and below, lasers you hope to dip and dodge. And admission is free. You don't realize you're an item for $5 at the grocery store. You thought you were the main exhibit in the Museum of Streets, but here, you're the main course. Your legs find a newfound stride. You bolt before the patrons follow. You're on display. Level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1. Doors open, head swivels. Museum employee gets up to take a glance at the main exhibit. For a limited time only, folks. Admission is free. The patron is front row, peeking, swiveling. Patron crosses the do not touch sign. Main exhibit waits for a security guard to step in, but there is no stepping in at this exhibit, folks. It's enter at your own risk, and the risk escalates question by question. You're on display. Main exhibit asked to go home, and that day they let her go. No pay, but you still live to see another day. In exchange, they ask for a small fee of numbers. Admission is free. Patron's wife is now involved. She's accusing you. You, me? Her husband couldn't keep himself from the exhibition. She proclaims he has a son. You don't get paid for this. You're on display and the admission is free. On the landing strip, patiently waiting to get into customs, he asks, which one is yours? And you point to your backpack. He quietly brings it down and hands it to you unprompted. Is this my reward? And so for the last one, this, I just kind of, I think, wrote this about a month ago. And so this is kind of dedicated to, I used to work with minors who would, so the term that is used is unaccompanied minors, but they're children crossing the border, and they cross usually typically by themselves. That's what makes them kind of like the title unaccompanied minors. And many times when I would say to people like that I was working in this job, many people would be like, oh, you should write about that. But I didn't feel right writing about their stories, and a lot of their things are very personal. But there was one image that didn't leave my mind whenever I was working. I was doing a kind of like, I was visiting a home, and there was an image that just like did not leave away from me. And so this is kind of like my ode to them and like my respect to them, and just still keeping their stories like private and intact, but at the same time, just kind of highlighting that there is still joy with, you know, a lot of the things that happen. So this one is called There's Even Joy in Iowa. The nearest highway was 40 miles away amidst the cornfields. The white neighbor silently disapproved. The hospital, gym, post office, and school formed the tiniest cul-de-sac. My stomach sunk just at the thought of staring at these windmills. It was another realm. They could go anywhere, and some are in the Midwest. Think rural as they come. I don't know if any of them expect to land where they land, praying to Dios to make sure they're protected, and some are fiercely protected, with their mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles' watchful eye. They go to school, they are given freedom due to circumstance, and they leave hoping that what's on the other side will protect them. But some land in Iowa in situations they can't control and fall deep into the false promises they heard. And others run away because childhood isn't too appealing, and they find themselves in the crevices and pockets of rural America. And I lie awake at night, or at midnight, or dawn, or even in the middle, they pop up. And I wonder what happened. I myself send them a nod to the universe, hoping that they're protected. And then I remember that there's even joy in Iowa. Joy is built with carne asadas and soccer games. Joy is found in the first snowfall. Joy is found in the rainbow light won in school for good behavior. Joy is found in Fast and Furious movies. Joy is found in school art projects and first trips to NYC. Joy is found in safety. Joy is found in Domino's and Elote y Papitas at McDonald's. Joy is found in dance team. Joy is found in their voice. Joy is found nestled in the couches of their favorite movie or snack. Joy is found behind the soccer fields. Joy is found in the crisp blue skies and a promise that a better future is simply a future. And joy is even found in Iowa, even with the racist neighbors, even with the stir craziness of cornfields that go for miles. And I think about that one time I was driving out of maybe the smallest town in America, and there were 4 boys in the street with their skateboard, and they may have been the happiest kids in the world. The sun was right at dusk, right before it sleeps for the night, and everything was closed. But these kids, these children who leave, I slowed down and then went on my way to the nearest city and thought, there's even joy in Iowa. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zaira, and thank you for ending us on a note of joy. I think it's like that's such a beautiful way to sort of end and conclude. Okay. Thank you all to our readers and to our retreat people for showing up and reading such stellar work, and for being just wonderful. Really, I mean, truly, I was wowed like every day with all the students that we got to work with. Students, even, I mean, peers. I mean, at this point, it's just like I'm just so excited to like support you all through Abode, and that we're all family, and that we want to support your writing and your endeavors. So when I first had this idea for the retreat, and honestly, it ties into like my whole vision for Abode in general. Abode's mission is to uplift marginalized writers. It's to be anti-racist, anti-colonial, intersectional, empathetic, and so we provide such a kind home. We want to be home you know, to so many people that might not feel at home, especially in the literary world, which can be predominantly white or can be isolating or can be hard to get into. And so for Abode, you know, something that's so important to us is creating accessible opportunities for writers, whether it's financially, ensuring that people can actually afford to do things. Like, while the literary world does have opportunities, sometimes they're just inaccessible because of cost. Sometimes they're inaccessible because they prioritize other voices over other voices. It's not equitable. It's not equality is not prioritized. And so for us, especially being an oppressed space in the South, it's been extremely important for us to try to level the playing field as much as possible, to provide opportunities, to build community, to build friendship, to play, have fun, to find joy, to speak out, to build words of liberation, and to be somewhere where you feel at home, but also know that we will stick up for you too. And I feel like that's sort of the best way for me to say that. And I feel like I saw that reflected in all of your work and all of the alignment that I felt with every person that was at this retreat, all the conversations that I got to have, all the work that I got to read, truly have been wowed. And just, I think it's important that I say that, like, I consider us all to be a part of the Abode family. And please know that, like, even though the retreat ends today, that you're still going to be on our hearts and minds and souls, and that you can always reach out to us, always send us anything that you've been doing and like help us. Like, we want to amplify you. We want to uplift you. We care about you. We love you. And so, yeah, those are sort of just my closing remarks. SG, because I don't want to start crying. So SG, did you have any thoughts that you might want to say?
Oh, okay. Wait, am I unmuted? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think we both spotlighted me at the same time. It was very trippy. Yeah, just want to definitely echo everything Diamond said. I think we should all like applause for Diamond though, because Abode was literally just an idea that Diamond had, and now it's all this. So definitely so much gratitude, giving them their flowers. I'm gonna start crying. Yeah, I'm just really grateful to all of you for being a part of the first ever retreat, because you're like forever part of where we go from here. So that's really exciting to think about. Yeah, I feel like this has really shown us, this is only year 2 of Abode, like what we're doing, there's a need for it. There's like demand for spaces that are like equitable, anti-racist, anti-colonial, especially in these times with all the nonsense out in the world. So I'm just unendingly grateful, and definitely hope y'all keep in touch. Yeah, I think that's it. Keep an eye out for what we're doing next.
Thank you. Okay, so I definitely want to make sure that, first of all the love, thank you. Yeah, I love Abode so much. It's like my baby, and like getting to share it with so many wonderful people and having it become important to them too is like crazy. It's like inviting someone into your home, but like we're all kind of living in this home together, and now it's all of our home. I don't know. So it's just really lovely. So yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording. I would love to get a photo with everyone